When Steel talks, everybody listens.
This is When Steel Talks, and we're here on the NYU campus speaking today with Russell Fisher. He is a graduate of the Profession program, and it was really great to be here this past few days when you had your recital, your graduate recital. That was really nice. So tell us more about Russell Fisher, who you are. We know that you're involved with the steel pan instrument, but percussion overall. But let's start with the basics, your involvement with music, how you get to NYU, and your introduction to the steel pan instrument, and just fill in the areas so far.
Well, I started playing percussion when I was about 7. I started with drum set, like most kids, just kind of having fun with it. And got really interested in high school in the more classical side of things with like the mallet percussion instruments and all the other things we do here at NYU. And that led me to go to a pre-college program on Saturdays when I was in high school, where I met Jonathan Haas, the director here.
Okay.
He was the director at the pre-college where I went to. And so after developing a really great relationship with him, I decided I wanted to come to NYU for college. And once we figured that out, there was this one piece we were doing in our percussion ensemble that had a steel pan part, and he said, well, you might as well play it now because you're going to be going to NYU, so you got to learn how to play the steel pan.
Because it is mandatory in parts for the percussion majors here.
Right. So I was like, great. So that was really fun. And so eventually I got here and then started the first day playing, I think it was the first thing I played, I think was Song of Peace. It's Roaring Lion, and I remember Josh Cohen was just like, yeah, this is it, go for it. And he just kind of throws us into it right away. And I immediately, that was my favorite part of the week always, was steel bands on Sunday.
Huh.
It's just fun.
So do you find it, I would say, cathartic in a way, in when you're tense with studies and you thought that coming to band practice, at least for pan, it worked in your favor?
Oh yeah, every time. Definitely there was a few times a little stressed out with,
you're still learning an instrument.
Right, which is a little
music,
scary.
Yeah.
Plus, just having so much respect for Josh coming in here like any classical percussionist would. It's always a little intimidating at first, but once you're with him for a couple weeks, you realize he's just a really nice person, a really good, supportive teacher. But so that's basically how I got started with steel pan, and then after meeting Kendall, even though he was so quiet here, didn't get to talk to him much, but once I really got to know him and he invited me to play with Crossfire and get to be in the panorama scene, that's where things really took off for me with steel pan. That's where I really understood the instrument more so, rather than just how to play it, just like the community that goes with it. That's my favorite part of it. I tell that to everyone, that the community of steel pan, just the warmth and welcoming that I got when I went to the Panyard. There was not 1 minute where I was like, okay, I'm like the new guy. It was always like...
You were just enveloped into the family. So we're talking
Exactly.
in Brooklyn, New York, just for the record here.
Right,
So
Brooklyn, New York, exactly.
Have you been to Trinidad? Did you participate in any of the events there, like at the Panorama or with Brooklyn Steel Orchestra at the International Panorama?
I have not yet.
Okay, so you've not been to Trinidad yet?
Not yet.
Is that on your to-do list?
That is the biggest priority right now.
Well, after school. Okay, tell us more about your interactions in terms of the Panyard. Percussions overall, there's culture, there's history, there's community behind practically everyone from whichever part of the world. But, of course, steel pan sometimes is not what some people expect. They might be in a formal atmosphere, like maybe at NYU so-called, or you might see pan plays in the subway. But what were your first thoughts when you stepped into the Panyard environment the first time?
The first time I went only as a spectator.
Okay.
That was after my freshman year here, and Kendall's, you should check it out. So I went, and I remember just being amazed at how many people were actually there. Because Josh would say, yeah, there's 90, 100 people in a band, and I was like, okay.
Oh, you thought it might just been a little bit of
an exaggeration, but then I got there and I was like, oh my gosh, how are all these people fitting, and how is this happening?
Yeah.
And it was really mind-blowing. And then getting to hear them play, because I didn't go until the song was kind of done and ready and its finishing touches. And so it was when they played Let Go, I remember just being like, oh man, that's the stuff there. I need to be a part of this. And so all year I was waiting for the next time, and I was there.
Yeah.
I was there, and I was good to go. And I was really excited, and it was an awesome experience.
Okay, so that means you're going to be in step for when you do get to Trinidad, because it's even a larger affair.
Right.
So it's going to be maybe just a tad bit overwhelming, but I think you've gotten your feet wet here. Now, back in February, you had an audition, and you were excited about it. Tell us more about that.
Yeah.
And you utilized pan as your instrument. So
Yeah.
fill us in.
So I auditioned for, this particular audition was for the Yale School of Music. And I had taken a lesson about a couple weeks before with Josh, just to hear, he was going to hear me play some of my standard audition materials,
Right.
just as more practice. And he asked me if I was going to bring my pan up, and I was like, I didn't really think about it. And he told me when he auditioned there, 'cause that's where he went for his master's, that he brought his pans and he played, and it's the same teacher, and that he thought it really helped him out in his audition. And so I was like, any chance I get to play it, like, sure. So I brought it with me, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if I was going to get to play it or not. A couple people who I had told who had studied with him, Professor Robert Van Cise, that I was going to bring it. They're like, that's awesome. You might not get to play it, but it'll be there. And so the midway through my audition, he kind of looked over and he goes, I don't think this steel pan is here for decoration. I'm assuming you want to play it. And I was like, I'd love to play it. And so I played a little bit of an arrangement I did for solo tenor of What a Wonderful World. And it was great. The best part about it, though, is he let me talk about it. He asked me, after I had played, he said, okay, that was really nice, but how did this contribute to your education? And he had to stop me from speaking because I wouldn't stop. It was such a huge part of my education here, mostly because I think the main point I wanted to drive home in that setting was the idea of community and the warmth that I felt when I went to the Panyard, and how it was no man left behind kind of thing. Like, we're in it all together. If one person doesn't know,
everyone will chime in to
right.
teach that person. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like you're responsible for picking up, your bandmates. And I really took that to heart and tried to bring it to what
as
we
a life
do.
experience. Yeah,
as the chamber musicians, orchestral musicians, and in every setting, like, not to be like, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing or she doesn't know what she's doing. Like, too bad. It's your responsibility then to help them. And I think that was a huge, huge part of my education, just trying to bring that here and to every musical experience I have.
It's something you will carry forward as you move on as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I completely owe it to the Panyard.
That's good. When you first started Pan, and that was before you got to NYU, were you familiar at all with the instrument?
Not more than just, hearing it sometimes when I was like walking through the city, but
Okay.
As soon as I started playing with it, I was like, oh, this is really cool. It's a really nice thing.
How did you explain that additional instrument to your family? Like, were they aware themselves of Pan, or you were like, well, it's a little bit more than
Right.
when you're just walking through the city or in the
Exactly.
subway?
So I remember the first time I really saw multiple pans together was when I came to the spring concert here of my senior year of high school, so before I attended, and I heard them playing, I don't remember which songs it was, but
It was one part of the NYU repertoire.
yeah, it was just part of the NYU concert, and I was like, man, that is such a cool sound. Like, I couldn't quite figure out what was going on. Like, I kept thinking I heard like string bass, which I know now is just the bass pans, and I was like,
Well, right, because it emulates every single
Yeah.
instrument in a conventional orchestra, depending on which voice.
exactly. And so once I realized it wasn't just tenor pan, there was more. I was like, oh man, this is a really amazing, unique experience that most schools actually don't have, which is a shame. But I was lucky enough to go to a school that did, and so once I got here, I knew I was really excited about it, and I knew that it was going to be a big part of my education. I just didn't realize how big.
So
And
how do you explain this or share with your family?
Oh, right.
actually? Because it's not like, I'm playing guitar, I'm playing
Right.
drums, and like, oh, I'm playing pan, and it's becoming
Yeah.
quite significant.
I'm extremely lucky to have amazing, open-minded parents.
Open-minded is coming up. I knew that word was coming.
But it's really true. I mean, my mom loves drums and she loves African percussion and all these other things. So when I told her about the steel pan, she's like, "Oh yeah, I think I've heard that." Like, and so I was like, "No, you don't understand. Like, it's just." So they came to pretty much every concert here because they're amazing. And at the first steel pan concert, they're like, "That's the most fun we've had at one of your concerts." Period. And that's. I mean, then it was. Then they would always say, "Yeah, like the chamber music concert and this, and come to these." But then, like for my cousins and aunts, they'd be like, "Make sure you come to the steel concert because that one's really fun." And everyone always has a ton of fun there. It's it's true.
Okay, so where are you moving forward now that you've completed your audition at Yale School of Music? Have you heard back from them, or also are you going there, or are you taking some time off?
So I auditioned at a few schools. I got waitlisted at Yale, but the same teacher teaches at Peabody Conservatory, which is part of the Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, and I will be attending there in the fall. So I'm really excited about that, and definitely excited to bring Pan there because it hasn't been there.
Okay, so you're planning, so that's another place we have to keep an eye on because you're going to be there. With your experience with the Crossfire at the Panorama, what was participating in the event on stage like for you? Because that's also different from the Panyard, where
of course.
That's the first time the band actually assembles in its full complement, and they actually play together. Usually it's very difficult to get it done in small Panyards, but how was it for you?
It's surreal. That's the only word I can use to describe it. It's like when you get on stage and like everyone's getting really excited and like you can feel the energy like pumping through your veins, and then you start hearing the count off and you're like, "Oh, this is gonna happen," and then the energy it's just like so tangible and palpable, and I've never smiled so hard than after that we finished the song and Big in the Dance. It was like I was like, this is the most fun I've ever had playing music.
So how's that going to impact your musical path going forward? Just that one stage experience in Panorama, and probably you're going to have a few more.
Well, yeah, so I had that one, and then I played this year also with same with Crossfire. That was a little scarier because I wasn't there all summer to learn the song. I was in Aspen that last summer for most of it, and so when I got back, I learned the song that week, and that one, I mean, it's also same, just extremely fun. But I plan to keep doing it every year, pretty much. As many as I can.
Did you go to the Panyard and learn by rote, or did you get some of the music beforehand through Kendall in terms of sheet music?
The first time I did it, he gave me the music, and then the changes I would learn by rote. So I was like, okay, that wasn't too scary. And then the last song I learned completely by rote, which was, it just changes the experience a little bit, and I think it's for the better. I think everyone should definitely go through that because you learn music as music, not as kind of this linear thing, but it's this wholesome, and and that gets to the more of the interactions and the teaching and the learning from each other and the community that I was talking about before. I think it's really important. There's some music in the like classical contemporary percussion realm that is taught that way also, and I think everyone should go through that.
You should at least have both methodologies under their belt.
Yeah.
Both formally music reading and by rote. Okay. Take us through some of the other instruments that you also play, because you do marimba, so just kind of like reel those off that you've been through here at the percussion program at NYU.
So there's like the three separate categories. There's like mallet percussion, timpani, and then snare drum, accessories, and regular orchestral instruments. And so aside from those, there's the African Jeel percussion ensemble and then steel band. And so between those 5 categories, that's what every NYU student has to do here.
In percussion, okay.
At some point, yeah.
Okay.
And so with the marimba and the other mallet percussion instruments, those are generally taught through private lessons and ensembles. I think our chamber music ensemble, I can call it that now because it's technically called marimba ensemble, but it includes so much more. For example, this semester I got to play a piece that had double seconds in it. So it's double seconds, drum set, marimba, and vibraphone. and that's by a piece called Tangram by Wally Gunn, and one of the few chamber pieces around that use steel pan.
Okay.
And I think that trend is gonna go upward.
That's interesting. How did you go about choosing your pieces for your recital? Because you had one by Andy Akiho, and you had tenor and double seconds at the same time?
Yep.
You were using 4 sticks and the chopsticks. So talk about how that came together, what led into that choice.
Yeah. So the marimba solo was something I played in auditions all year, and it was one of those very educational, academic hard pieces that we have to play as students. And then the multi-percussion piece with all the kind of found instruments was a piece I'd wanted to play for a while, and enjoyed working on it as kind of part of my last recital. As I said at my recital, I just really want to play more with Kendall, like as many chances I can get to. And so getting to play with him on my recital, also because he had such a huge impact on what I did here, was really special for me. And then the French horn piece was also just really, I got to work with my friend, the composer, and my girlfriend, the French horn player, Alana. And it was really, She's
off camera.
That was just really special to get to perform with her in an intimate setting rather than just in orchestra when we can kind of be like, hey, what's up? And then the Andy Akiho piece kind of, for me, felt like my big showcase piece. Was something that actually Jonathan introduced me to, because he saw Andy premiere it. I think it was at MSM when he was still there. I'm not sure.
School of Music.
Yes, exactly.
He did Synesthesia, wasn't he? Oh, okay.
I'm not positive if that's true, but
he premiered it one way or
the other. Yeah, he premiered it, and Jonathan was there.
And he also went to Yale.
Right, exactly, he did. And so I played a piece that I wrote for marimba and string quartet on my junior recital, and Jonathan was like, why don't you play the one for steel pans? And I was like, I didn't know there was one. And so my junior year considered switching it and putting that on, but I was like, I gotta save some stuff for my senior recital. And so since I think March last year, I was like getting ready to play it.
So you also arrange. Talk about how you got into that. You're a composer as well.
Yeah.
But arranging for pans specifically is something that you do. So touch a bit on that.
Once I realized that Josh was going to let me try, I wanted to. So I did one for my recital, in my junior recital. I did a small arrangement for just kind of like one on a part sort of thing. It was tenor, double tenors, double seconds, guitars and bass, and a little bit of percussion with it. It was on Mother's Day, my recital, so I just did a Mariah Carey song my mom really liked. And so that was my first try at arranging, and it went pretty well. Josh was asked if I had a full band version, and so I asked if I could arrange a different song, because I wanted to, and he's like, yeah, sure, just send me the music. And so, again, having a supportive teacher like him is pretty...
Goes way beyond the words.
Exactly. So giving me the chance to arrange was huge, and then getting to work on it with him, someone who's arranged a lot and is really good at it, was really good for me to be able to work with him on it. And it was really special for me to have an arrangement. I want to keep doing it.
So different voices of instruments in the steel pan family. Do you have a favorite per se when you're playing? Like, like some people like prefer bass, or guitar, cello, tenor. What's your favorite if you have one?
It's tough. I own a tenor, and I'm in the process of getting double seconds made right now, and it's kind of a fight between the two, which is why that Andy Akiho piece is so perfect, because I get to use both. But especially in Panorama, I like to play tenor. I just think it's, I don't know, I get more excited playing it.
If it works, go for it.
And in a solo setting, sometimes I think just because there's more notes and more fun you can have with double seconds, sometimes they get a little bit of a nudge in the solo setting.
Okay. You are well on your way, one could say, to having pan being a major part of your musical journey. I know you just graduated and it's just a bachelor's, but do you have a sense of where you would like to go, like say, see yourself maybe 5-6 years from now, and what part would you like pan to play in it, in addition to the fact that there are many other percussion instruments that you are versed in?
Well, my main goal going forward in my life, I always tell people, if there's one thing I had to choose to do, it's going to be to teach at like a college level. I want to have probably my own program, hopefully one day, to start my own steel band. There's 100%, no matter what I do, where I teach, there's going to be steel pan there.
There's not going to be that component.
Even if it's just me and one other student who wants to do it, I'm gonna make sure it's there, and that's something I'm gonna carry with me, just because it's so important. I mean, it had such a huge impact on me, and I think it's an amazing way.
And you've seen the impact on other people who are not familiar
Exactly.
with it when they see it in an ensemble or a full orchestral version. Question. If I would ask you what was your vision for steel pan, what would it be? Because of course there are some places or some people who still aren't really fully aware of the reach and the extent and what it is capable of. What would be your vision if you were or could be a proponent for elevating what it's about?
It's a really good question. I think it's a really important question to think about also as we try to make it a more contemporary classical instrument. I think, seeing it in every percussionist's education is really important, which is why I, hopefully, if I teach, will be including that in my personal curriculum for students. But also just to see it, I think, if his group has a concerto that David Lang wrote for them, and he plays a really awesome double seconds part on that. Seeing more of that, seeing it in the orchestral setting, and we're seeing it more and more in the jazz setting with, people like Sherwin Thwaites, and I think that's really important as well. And just seeing that it's more than just, island music, because it's so much more than just, even though all of that is so important because it's its history and it's...
I mean, it's like a guitar. You expect to see it in any form of music.
Right, exactly.
You would like to think at some point that the pan is just another recognized instrument and not kind of an exotic.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's where it's going. I think it's really, there's people writing for it, people playing it, and that's all that really matters. And then having people to share it, like you guys, I mean, that's what makes it so awesome and important, and that's what makes it happen. I think just the social media stuff really does help, and having that being spread now and having it happen and being a part of it for me is really cool. And I think it's going to happen really soon.
That's good. All right. Any final thoughts before we close off?
Yeah. I definitely, while I have the chance to publicly, again, thank just the teachers I've had, and Josh, Jonathan, the people who have supported steel pan so much in my education, and my chamber ensemble teacher, Simon Boyar, who purposely programmed a piece that I could play pan. He's extremely supportive of it as well. And then everyone in When Steel Talks that came to my recital and posted, and Kendall for writing and arranging great music for me to play, and everyone who has supported me so far. Yeah.
Well, it's been really great, having the opportunity to follow NYU Steel and the members of the orchestra, and of course when some of them are more to the front, like in yourself, in terms of arranging, then it's pretty good that we actually get a focal point to share with the global steel band community. So we don't just say, well, it's NYU Steel at performing throughout the year, but then again, when the students go forward, it's pretty cool to follow them and highlight them. So thank you for your time. Thank you for the wonderful music, for the performances with NYU Steel. Congratulations in your graduation, and may your future journeys be filled with music and, of course, with pan along the way.
Yes.
Thank you, Russell.
Yes, thank you.